All right. What's up, everyone? JuanBond back here. The carnage at the Arnold Palmer Invitational is something that's we're going to attempt to break down here. It's been today. It was I don't know, almost the way. Let's just put it this way. Round two was awful. It's going to be. I think it's going to be more of the same. You saw some of the guys I like play really well that I mentioned on the earlier stream, and some of the guys like Adam Scott and Sebastian Munoz, who I really liked, missed the cut. So my lineups are dead. I had too much Scott, so I'm going to be chasing with Showdown. So I'm going to, just like we did in the first stream here, I'm going to cover on Data Golf how to break down a Showdown slate and what to look for real quick, and then we'll once again just do a quick player pool and a quick lineup on DraftKings. But let's talk about the tournament. It's cut line was +3, so that helped me, and I know it helped with a lot of the guys I was on at that range. Benyon snuck in when it looked like he was going to miss the cut. Victor Hovland, Xander, Abraham Answer, who I was really high on, snuck in, and then of course Gooch, who shot a +8 today after being near the lead after round one. So Tyrell Hatton, go figure, who I was really high on, talked about his putting, how he was one of the best putters in the game on the last stream. He sits in first place with Sung Kang, another golfer who I mentioned in the stream briefly, but I just said I liked other value in that range. And if I would have just played Hatton, Kang, and I mentioned that Sung J M was the pivot from Scott, and we plugged him in that DK lineup this week. However, I did not. I played him in that one lineup like I said I would, but I still played Scott in my cash lineup. So M's playing well again, kind of like I figured, and he's sort of lower owned, just kind of like I figured. So you got Hatton, Kang, and M look good. Patrick Rogers, he was my top value play. He made the cut. He's tied for 24th, and he was 6,600, so he's looking good. And then, of course, I talked about Scott and Munoz missing the cut. Neiman missed the cut. A couple other notables. Tommy Fleetwood missed his first cut in 30-something tournaments, 32, I believe. Or I think he had gone 33 straight, but that streak is over. And then you got Justin Rose is another notable. He missed another cut, but it's worth noting that he's starting to ditch Hanma. He played the Pro-Am this week, I saw, with TaylorMade driver. Or he was playing with the TaylorMade driver a little bit last week, but I think he was switching out some irons this week too. So keep an eye on Justin Rose news. I think if he ditches Hanma and goes back to TaylorMade, it could be – it's just like you see these guys dumping PXG right now. You got Billy Horschel. Ches Reavie was another one, I believe. All these guys that dump PXG, they're probably going to play a little better. So you got to keep an eye on equipment changes and caddy changes and stuff like that. That's, just a good strategy for golf DFS in general. But once again, I'm not going to do a big plug for the site, but we're Draft Manager. We're powered by RotoCurve. We use the exact same tools for other sports that RotoCurve uses. We have the same optimizer as RotoCurve. Just go check it out, draftmanager.com. It's where you'll get our premium content. Once in a while, we throw out free streams like this. So if you're watching this, welcome. Go check us out. But let's talk about let's get me out of here a little bit. Bring in the screen. So we got Data Golf up here. What they have, so we're going to refresh here because it's been up a while. Let's do this. You're going to want to. So I showed you how to use the course history tool and all that, the historical event data to see the approach. We want to look at that again here just so I can make my point. I got a point to make. But we talked about how approach was very key this week. So now that we talked about that on the first stream. So what we want to do now in the middle of a showdown is we want to go to the live strokes gain model. It's going to default to round two. I like to go right to the average. First thing I want to do is see, well, we know Hatton. We want to know who's putting the lights out. If a guy's putting the lights out, there's two ways to look at it. You can say, well, this guy's going to continue to put the lights out, but the first thing I always do is look at the rest of his game and kind of see where else, if he's doing anything good. You will normally see that guys that have gained 2 strokes or more putting probably aren't playing great elsewhere. Just kind of the way it works. If they are, they have a huge lead. It's that simple. So Leishman's putting good. He's been really good around the greens. This is how to read this right here. You want to, after you sort by putting, I want to just show you kind of the bottom 10 in putting because it's always fun to look at. Rose putt terrible. Finau no, he did not. He's cut. Guys that made the cut that aren't putting well. We got Zhang, Answer, On, of course. Joel Damon. Always look to see because, I look at Zhang here is over 2 strokes off tee to green and approach. So he's gaining strokes on approach. So after I check out my putting, I'm going to shoot right to the main category, the main dish here. And there's good old Tom Hoagie, Morikawa, Jimmy Walker, Joel Damon. These are guys that I want to target because they're excelling at the part of their game that they need to excel at on this course. So definitely I pick most of my plays off this depending on, tee to green is just kind of another stat that you got to factor just every round, no matter what. I usually skip off the tee and around the green. You can do that here with what we saw with how the model played out. But another thing I want to show you to prove the point of how important approach is, take a look at the bottom half of it and who lost strokes, 2 or more. Not a single one of them made the cut. Every single one of them missed the cut. So if you were in the rough or whatever and messed up your second shot, if you didn't hit fairways or if the wind, whatever, went in the water, anything, look at how far you got to go to find somebody. You got Scotty Scheffler miraculously is tied for 13th, but it's just been terrible on approach shots. So same with Rogers. He's tied for 24th. But nonetheless, that's how you can see why it's so important is all these guys didn't make the cut. So that's basically that. So now that we've covered that, let's get into it. The slate locks at 5 a.m. Eastern, so we got just over 7 hours from right now until tee time. So I wrote down some notes. I'm not going to refer back to the stats page. I can only have one screen up at a time. So we're going to go to the DraftKings page, the lineup page here. Stop. That's funny. You weren't supposed to see that. That's okay. Maybe 10 people will watch this. This is for my guys in my Slack and my PGA channel. For the most part, it's all I really care about. If you stumble upon it, you're welcome. If I win you some money, give us a follow. Give me a follow. That's all I ask. Anyway, let's do this. I think I'm up here. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need me. Let's do it. All right. So at the top, the way the stats worked out. Okay, look. So we know we want to target guys who've been good on approach. Talked about that. Some of the guys, like if they've been putting bad but they're doing well, I don't mind giving them a chance. If they're gaining strokes around the green, on the approach and tee to green. If they've been putting bad for a couple of days, I might overlook it just to kind of mix up my play. But I rely mostly on stats for Showdown. But the other thing I do, and let's start with Rory here, is I don't put much weight into this, but it is interesting. If you click on the game log for DraftKings, you see round 3 scores here. Like someone like Rory's pretty much good. He's only had 2 rounds in the 70s in his last 12, but I always kind of look at the round 3, and if some guys pop, some guys might play better on Saturday mornings. I mean, you got that rush of making the cut, whatever it might be. But I'm going to plug Rory in. Look, he's in it. He's in contention, and there's just too many good plays, guys that made the cut under 7K. I'm sorry, that are worth a flyer in showdowns. It's worth going stars and scrubs, stack up these guys at the top. Therefore, Rory, I think even Matsuyama and DeChambeau are both in play. I'm not playing them, just to be honest. Just being honest. Matsuyama made a good comeback. He's streaky. He'll score. He'll get some birdies. And Bryson is just kind of, it's hit or miss with Bryson. I think he might be struggling a bit in the conditions. So I'm going to stay away. Sungjae is like a robot. He's playing super good. I will play him, but I will say that I think Schauffele is a good pivot here just because he is a round 3 machine for one, and he's coming off last week. He had a rough start last week, and he shot 66 on the weekend to get himself back in it. Or that was WGC Mexico, so yeah, I like Schauffele too. I wouldn't count him out quite yet. Player his caliber, and he's a good kind of sneaky play where nobody will be on him. But I just don't think I can fade him. He's playing too good right now. Really figured it out the last couple of weeks, and I think he's where I want to go here. Morikawa also in play. Rita's kind of just been putting too good for me to play him. But in this range, I think you're going to see a lot of M and Hatton because they're near the top. But Schauffele and Morikawa are definitely in play. Morikawa was 2.6 he gained on approach today. And M was over 6 strokes tee to green today. So, and then you got Hatton too. Was over 4 strokes tee to green, and he was 2.8 on approach. So. Stars and scrubs, there really isn't anybody I like, honestly, between from Hatton. I love Hatton, and then when you go down from Hatton, there's Brooks. On is okay. We know on, if he putts, he's going to score. But that's just not really worth it to me right now in a tournament where he's tied for 61st and kind of out of contention. So that's the other thing you got to think about too is try and get – I mean, I know it sounds stupid, but you got to put yourself in the player's shoes. Try and get in their mindset. Are they in it? Are they going to try harder? Is there a part of their game where they're really struggling, where there's no way they're going to finish well? I mean, that's the kind of stuff you got to consider. So we're going to start with Rory, Sungjae, and Hatton. But again, keep in mind, Schauffele, Morikawa, both terrific plays in my opinion. And then after on, I don't really like anybody else. Answer is putting pretty poor. I will say like this, if I had – Leishman was only putting, as we pointed out, and everything else is kind of average. But he's another guy who's just got that win in him. So you see a guy like Leishman tied for 7th at 8K in a showdown round. He's a guy that you can target. I like Leishman, but he's just not going to fit in. We only have 6,800 left for player, but that's totally fine with what we got at the bottom when we're chasing stats here. So going down, I would skip. I'm going to skip all these guys. Hovland snuck in the cut line. I mean, you can certainly play him if you go on Data Golf and kind of play with the stats and see something you like with some of these guys. There's, you catch something other than me. But I'm going all the way down to my guy Wyndham Clark. He's +2. He's over 2 strokes gained on approach and tee to green, which I like. But he's losing strokes putting, which is not like Wyndham Clark, but. I like the fact that this dude can get hot with the putter anytime, and he's, look at that 66. That was Sunday. Sorry, he's not the best round 3. That was the only thing that kind of turned me off him. Hasn't had a round 3 in the 60s in a while, but I think a guy that is that good of a putter is just always in play. But we're gonna skip him. Going down a little bit more. Talked about Joel Damon. He wasn't putting very well. But he gained 3.5 strokes on approach Friday, and he's been solid. And he's a guy played really good today. He's coming off a tied for 5th, and his round threes are money, 66, 67. So love Damon. I'm going to plug him in. We got 6,800 left. Sung Kang is going to be super popular. He's going to be super popular because he's in first and he's cheap. I think he's a perfect fade. He's just putting too well. He does play good here, so that scares me. It makes me think he could be in contention, stay in contention. I got to learn how to talk before I do more streams. Sorry about that. But anyway, yeah, Kang is a fade for me. It's just check the stats. That's all I'm going to say. Then I'm going to go down to my 6,800 guys here that I'm going to play. I love Matt Wallace. Played really well today. What did I write down about Wallace? Nothing, apparently. Well, it's all right. Like him because he's playing well. Coming off the miscut, hasn't played a good tournament here. Let me pull him up. Let's see what put me on him. Tee to green. Yeah, Wallace is in the top 10 tee to green, or just outside of it. And he's been doing really good around the greens, which is kind of strange, but probably the best in the field. But anyway, I like Wallace. Just another kind of a proven winner, even though he isn't playing great. More of a gut play, I guess. It must have been the only reason why. But anyway, going down further here, there's this guy who leads the field in strokes gained approach, Tom Hoge or Hogue. I don't know what it is. I'm going to be honest. But he's been playing good golf all year, so I got no problem playing him at all. He really slowed down, but prior to that 5th, he had some other good finishes. 6th, 12th, yeah. So he had a little run. And during that, well, look at his round threes. They're all in the 60s. So, yeah, just ride this guy. Look at that, 67, 66, 67, 67. Round 3 genius. I think he's one of the top plays. He'll probably be pretty chalky because of the stats. But I think he's the guy you got to play. Bo Hosler was one of the biggest fades I noticed. Don't play Bo Hosler. Going down, Danny Lee he's in 3rd, but he's putting the lights out. It might be popular, but I would skip it. Couple guys I would play down here. Surprisingly, Jimmy Walker. He's got really good history here, and I actually considered him for a minute, and then I remembered he's Jimmy Walker, so I didn't. He just doesn't make a lot of birdies. He just doesn't. His game doesn't equate to DFS success, but he's playing well, and he's almost 2.5 strokes gained on approach, so he's right up there near the top 10. So I think he's in play. I wouldn't expect too much out of him. I think there's better options lower. And then you got Zhang, who I talked about, who's doing everything well except putting. He's tied for 38th. Nobody will own him. He's over 2 strokes gained on approach tee to green. We mentioned that. And there's even one more guy down here at 6K. KH Lee's playing really good. He's also top 10 tee to green and just not putting well. So if he can figure out his putter, I mean, this guy had a run last year that was really good. We were playing him in DFS, I remember, towards the end of the year last year. And he's getting hot again. You see that tied for 13th at the Genesis, tied for 14th at the Puerto Rico, and tied for 38th at the Honda last week. And now he's made another cut in a good field, and he's mid-priced. Definitely can leave some salary on the table here in Showdown. Another strategy that I think if you want to win a tournament, you almost have to, just to maximize your differentiatability. That's not a word, but it sounded terrible. Then who am I going to plug in for the last spot? It's not going to be King. I mean, I like Wallace, but that's more of a gut play. It could be Jimmy Walker. It could be Zhang, and it could be Lee. So let's see if I take Lee. Is there anything we can improve on? Or do we leave the 900 on the table? Let's leave the 900 on the table. I mean, it could be Wallace. I'll probably play Wallace. And instead of Damon, you could go Wyndham Clark or who else? We didn't really like anybody else in here. I didn't, stats wise anyway. You could also bump Hatton down to Leishman, and then you could balance things out if that's something you wanted to do. But I would definitely play Rory with either Sung Jae, Xander, Morikawa, that combo I talked about, or Hatton, two of those four, and then kind of sift through the 7K and downrange and see what fits for you. You might be able to fit well, like I said, I mean, it's pretty obvious. We can do Lee, we can do Matt Wallace, we can do Jimmy Walker. We can bump up to Leishman maybe if, there's ways to do this. If I come off, it could come off chalky. Let's come off chalky Tom Hogue. And let's play Leishman. That should be fun. Let's see what we got left with Leishman. Because this guy's going to be there. 66 puts me at Jimmy Walker. Zhang. Can Zhang putt? Can Zhang putt? Can Zhang putt? See, this is me building a lineup. Can Zhang putt? I'm not going to play Jimmy Walker. Not going to. It's a tough one. I'm going to go with Zhang. Let's do that. If Zhang and Lee can putt, yeah, we're playing it. So this one leaves 300 on there. We hit 20 minutes. Hopefully you got something out of this. The stats say, here's the player pool. The stats say Rory, M, Morikawa, Hatton, Clark, Damon, Wallace, Hogue, Jimmy Walker, Zhang, KH Lee. My kind of gut feelings were Xander, On, and Leishman. That's 14 guys, I believe. Should be able to make a decent player pool out of that. Everything I covered, I think I got. Scotty Scheffler's a big fade too. Don't play him. He'll probably end up in first after tomorrow, now that I said that. But anyway, that's it. I'm JuanBond for draftmanager.com. Thanks for watching. Good luck on your showdown tomorrow. I'll be back next week to cover the players. I'll be in Vegas to bet the players, so I'm only going to be here till Tuesday. So everything's coming out on Tuesday. Get ready for early content for once. That's it. Have a good night. Peace.